Howdy folks, what I want to do today is show you how to rewind a dead Fender Rhodes pickup. So I had to rewind around 20 or so for my particular Rhodes because buying new was going to become too costly. I did buy some new, but I ended up rewinding around 23, 24, something like that. I can't remember the exact number. So in this case, I'm not winding on new wire, so I don't need to count the revolutions. I'm winding from a complete dead one onto an empty spool. Of course, otherwise I would need to have some sort of laser counter set up around here somewhere, so I could count how many revolutions. I think it's a sniff under 3,000, it's 2,900 and something, I can't remember the exact figure. So this one is completely dead because it came out of my piano, not working at all. So the first thing you have to do, I'm going to try and show this as detailed as I possibly can. So you need to pick off a little bit. Well, you need to pick off the wire from the dead one here. I hope to show that I've just done. So it's sort of coming out there. So you've got a little bit coming off. There we go. And what you've got to do is, again, I'll try and show this. So this wire here, obviously what gives it its red colour is a protective coating. So you have to strip some of this off. So when you wind it and solder it onto the new posts on the empty spool, it'll get good contact and you'll get the resistance you need in order for it to work. So I use sort of this flat blade to strip some of this off. I have to do it on this bit of wood here, so you might not actually see it happening, but I'll just sort of try and show you the difference. Afterwards you'll notice that it's a bit shinier or a bit lighter than it was before. Sometimes this breaks a tiny little bit off, but that's not too much of a problem, and there'll be plenty enough wire. Like that, just broke off a bit, but not to worry, there's plenty of it. I mean, there's probably better ways of doing this, and if anyone out there has got a better way of doing this, please let me know. Like I say, what I'm doing is just from how I've experimented with it. So this might not be the best way. Did that work? So you can see the end of it. It's slightly more silvery than the rest of it. I ideally want to get a little bit more than that. So I'm just gonna give it another go. Without breaking it, hopefully. Yeah, that's a bit better. Happy with that. I'll try and show it as much as possible. I don't think the camera's going to focus on it, but there we go. So I did learn the hard way when I first started rewinding. Like I say, I've just done this from playing around myself. So the first time I ever tried doing this, I didn't strip some of this protective coating off, and then once I'd wound it onto the new spool and then tested it, it didn't show me the resistance. Solder can do the same job, so like applying a little bit of heat to it once you wind it onto the new one or the empty one can do the same job, but I tend to do both because it just makes sure it's gonna work. So you'll need to have some things in order to do this. So you'll need some sort of jig set up. So this sort of wooden thing here I quickly put together. You'll also need a variable speed drill. going to need a couple of bits of dowel with holes in, and a couple of screws, which are actually the screws that hold them into the piano. I'm just using a couple of those for this purpose. And most importantly, you're going to want a shed load of patience, because this isn't particularly easy. It doesn't always go right. I have had some that have not gone particularly well, but the last few that I've done have all been good, so hence why I'm going to try and show this as best I can. You can probably tell I'm not usually used to doing videos like this, so I'm trying to make this as informative and show as much detail as possible. Again, please let me know if you've got any suggestions about how I could do this better. So I'm going to pop this bit up into here, and all this jig is made up of is a couple of bits of wood. I just bolted a fidget spinner down here and glued this little rubber boot on it so that it can spin. So it doesn't spin as easily as perhaps other things would, but like I say, I was just using stuff that I had kicking about in my shed or whatever. So you'll want to then obviously connect your empty spool to your other bit of wood, and of course this is going to go in at the end of the drill. I have to put it in the other end because it's not as tight. So I've done so many of these and used the same bits of wood to do it, these holes end up getting a bit too big, and if the screw doesn't fit as tightly as it should do, and it won't work. But I have got a hole in the other end of this bit of wood, hopefully will hold it a bit tighter. That's better, a bit more resistance on that. There we go. So tighten that up. So I'm going to probably bring this down here, see if I can try and show how this goes on. I want this camera to focus on this part really, so I'm going to try and get it to stay focused on this, but I'll do my best. So you need to do is take, you probably won't be able to see this, but just take your wire, and what I usually do is wrap it round a few times round the post, obviously this is not particularly easy to do if you're like me and you have quite big hands. Also my vision is slightly impaired because I've got the camera right in front of me to try and show you this from a point of view perspective. This is all quite crude, but I promise you it works. Get this to focus. So actually it's not wrapped around as well as I want it to be, so I'm just going to do that again, and that's just broken that off, so I'm just going to have to re-strip a little bit of this again, which is annoying. Apologies. when I said you have to have patience, this is kind of what I mean. Because for the purposes of trying to do this video, things aren't going as smoothly as they usually do. As I'm sure a lot of people can probably understand. You think, yeah, I've got a good idea. I'll video doing that. What can go wrong? Well, it seems everything. I think that's better. Right, let's try this again. Get on there. So I don't know how much of that focused when I was doing that, so I'll try and show here. So there you go, you've got a bit of it wrapped around the post, and you need to get the wire to sit in that channel where it's sitting now on the empty spool. There you go, so it winds on evenly, because that is the aim, is to wind this on easily. And I'm going to try and get this in shot as best as I can. Actually, if I put this up here, will that be better? Possibly, I don't know. So the trick with this is to start slow, winding on as evenly as possible, because you want to try and be as even as possible going backwards and forwards. So when you've finished up, you've got an even, you've not got any lumps or bumps basically. And you also want to try and keep this as taut as you can without pulling too hard, obviously, because you break it, and then if you break it, then we're all up the creek without a paddle. And the way that I've managed to do this is to take up the slack with my other hand. So you probably won't be able to see this, but I'll have this hand here, and I'll just keep pulling it off of the actual, I'll be pulling it off of the dead one and keeping the slack in my hand here. So therefore, if I start feeling any snags, because sometimes it, see if these pickups have had the tape on them, the first layer is quite sticky. Either that, or sometimes it can get caught on the old post coming off. And I have cleaned up the posts on the old one and on the new one. Well, when I say new, empty one. So we've got as much clearance as possible for the wire to come off and for the wire to go on. So like I say, start slow. Make sure the drill's in the correct setting. And I hope you'll be able to see how well this happens. Obviously, you're going to want your drill on unwind. So you wind on. Right, so you've got to try and get it as even as possible. And try not to get it caught on the post as you're winding around. That's because I'm doing this from a slightly awkward angle. So for the first layer, I always try and keep it as even as possible. I mean, it doesn't matter too much, because it will all go on there and it will all work, but I can get the focus on the actual spool a bit more. No, wrong way. There we go, it's a bit better. So this is one of the benefits of keeping the slack in your hand, is the fact that I can feel that this was starting to snag down here. This is on the old dead pickup I'm pointing out now. You can't see it because of where the new one is on the camera. So the important thing is just to keep it taut and keep the feeling in your fingers, so you can always take the pressure off the drill if you feel it might snap. So I'm picking it up from here because I want to show you obviously how to do the rest. So when you do feel yourself getting towards the end, obviously take it nice and slow and work your way towards the end of the spool, obviously the opposite end from where you started. And then as you wind onto the post at the beginning, you want to give it probably a good, I mean, I've still got it in my hand at the minute, you can't see it, but I'll get it up nice and one more. Then there. And we'll wrap it around that post a good few times. More upright. Just to be on the safe side. So I have already taken the liberty of stripping the protection off the end of this bit of wire as well, because obviously that's needed in order to get yourself a good connection and get the resistance you need once you've soldered the post. And then with any luck, this will show us somewhere around 180 ohms, which is about what we want. It doesn't matter if they go a bit above. Some of the ones that I've done were nearer 200, but they work in the piano, so it's not the end of the world. I mean, the way I've done this is very crude, but this is the same way I've done it for all the other ones, and they're working in the piano, so I see that as a success personally. I'd never make it as a full-time Rhodes engineer, but you know, I got mine going from absolutely nothing to being a great piano with just doing stuff myself, so I'm not too worried. And once it's on, take that out of the drill. And take it off. So there you go, there you have it. I'll take it off the stick. And now you're also going to moan at me, I should imagine, for my shoddy soldering skills. I'm not the world's best solderer either, so you'll have to bear with me on that one. But I shall do my best. Let's just bring this vise further on up here. And you do literally just want a tiny dab on each post. Tiny dab of solder. And I'd like to say, give it the heat you need. I'm just going to pop a bit on the end of the solder. The easiest way I find to do this is just pop a bit on the end of the solder, on the end of the iron, sorry. And just quickly dab each end of the post, just a bit of solder. Because you find if you put too much heat on these, obviously these plastic parts of the spool start to melt very, very, very quickly. There's also another challenge is when trying to solder them back into the piano. If you have too much heat on them for too long, you then end up ruining them. So when I said you have to have a lot of patience, you really do. There you go, shoddy soldering, I promised you. And then with any luck, grief, it worked. So there you go. Let's put this here somewhere. I'm going to put it so you can see it. So when you test it, should be around 180 ohms. So anywhere between 175 and around about 200 is absolutely fine. It will work in the piano. So there you have it. If you've got some dead pickups and you don't want to buy loads of new ones, you can rewind them yourself using the method that I've just done. There is a bit too much solder on this post, but that doesn't matter too much because then you can utilize that when you solder it back into your piano. This is, like I say, it was a very crude setup, but it works. So if you liked it, please let me know. If you didn't like it, also please let me know. If you've got any suggestions, any ways I could have done that better, please say. There is some more Rhodes stuff coming soon on the channel. Some more funky stuff coming soon. So if you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.